Imagine waking up one morning and within seconds, the ground beneath you starts shaking violently. Buildings collapse, roads crack open, and chaos erupts everywhere. This was the terrifying reality of millions in Nepal during the April 2015 Nepal earthquake. And I know this because I lived through it. Today, I'll be taking you on a deep dive into Nepal's earthquakes, why they happen so often, the devastation they cause, and how we can prevent future disasters. I'll also share my personal experience on surviving one of the most catastrophic earthquakes in recent history. Here are the topics I'll be covering today. Let's begin. So, the April 2015 earthquake was one of the worst natural disasters to strike Nepal. It killed around 9,000 people, injured about 22,000, and destroyed around 600,000 structures. It happened on 25th of April 2015, Saturday, at around noon. So its epicenter was Barpak, Gorkha, with a magnitude of 7.8. So the epicenter was roughly 85 kilometers or 53 miles from the central Kathmandu Valley and at a depth of approximately 5.1 miles. So obviously, everyone was curious to know if Mount Everest, the tallest mountain on Earth, had grown even taller. Usually, what happens in earthquakes is that mountains uh, increase in their height. So, but that didn't happen. Um, but the entire mountain shifted like 3 centimeter to the southwest due to the motion of the fault. So it was one of the worst disasters to shock the mountain. There were 22 deaths due to avalanches on Mount Everest from the earthquake, and hundreds more were stranded in the Everest base camp. I'll also leave some interesting videos in my description below if you'd like to see. You feel free to. So another huge avalanche that happened during the earthquake was on Langtang Valley. So, as you can see in the picture, the entire village got swept off. More than 350 people were missing. We don't know either they were killed or they survived. We don't have any idea. But if they were not found, they were missing, then obviously they must have been killed. Centuries old buildings and heritage sites were destroyed. So, one of the historical monuments that got destroyed during the earthquake was the Tharara View Tower. It is a 9 story tall building and it used to be one of the tallest buildings of Nepal. From the roof or the balcony, we used to see the entire Kathmandu Valley. But this building has a history of its own. So another major earthquake that happened before that one was in 1934, which destroyed the original Dharara built by Vincent Thapa. So it was rebuilt again by Juddha Samser Rana, and then that got destroyed in 2015 earthquake, and it's now built again by the uh, government. So, since the building was really tall, so after its fall, 180 bodies were retrieved from the tower's debris. I mean, that's a lot. So, I'll tell you about my story on what I was doing during the earthquake. So, I was walking with my mother. So, you can see the house in the picture. It's of Vincent Thapa. So, my house is nearby it. And I was walking right around there with my mother, and suddenly I hear a huge noise like dun 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 dun, and then uh, I thought a truck was coming from behind and going to hit me and my mother. So like I didn't have any idea it was earthquake, because it was my first time experiencing it, and I was too small back then. So I told my mother there's a truck coming from behind, and I ran, like it was going to hit me. Like I ran without seeing my back, but my mother thought it was an earthquake, and suddenly that building started falling, started falling down, and like we were right there. We were right there. We could have been under the debris, um but we were fortunately saved by the grace of God, obviously. So we were all covered in like dust, but yeah, we just ran thinking it was a truck coming to hit us, so we were saved. And then, so all the roads were blocked during that time because the buildings collapsing blocked the roads. So and the networks were also cut off. So we were very worried and we were unable to contact with others. But um, I was like in ease that my mother was with me. And then we found a school right nearby us, and we sat on their basketball court for the entire day. And there were continuous like aftershocks, small to like big aftershocks that was happening, but the I think basketball court was a safe area, so we were not that worried. And then, so like it was around like dawn time, after sunset. Mm. So the aftershocks became like quite still, so there were not as many. So we decided to go back home, but the roads were blocked. So we climbed over like collapsed buildings, and we don't know whether there will be bodies underneath. We just like prayed to God and like climbed over collapsed buildings, and then just went over that side, and then we found our family safe and sound. But we heard the news that our uncle's house collapsed. So um so there were, I think initially around like 12 people in that house when the earthquake like struck. But many of them from the ground floor managed to run away. uh, you can see in the picture, the middle picture, so it's their house, and like I think 5 of them died inside the building. So my uncle and aunt, fortunately enough, they were um not on the like roof, but uh just below the roof, like the top floor, but just like below the roof. They were like just putting their keys on their doors to run down, but the building like collapsed from up down down like that. So since they were on the top floor, so they were saved, fortunately enough. If the like, I think their door didn't open, it got like interlocked. So I think that is what saved them. So my mother also used to always used to tell me that when an earthquake happens, if you're on the ground floor, that's okay, you run outside. But if you're like in the middle of a tall building, always go towards the top floor, because if not ground floor, then top floor is what saves you. Like don't be in the middle. And I think like that's what saved them. That's the idea that saved them, right? I think they were trying to go down, but like luckily enough, God saved them. But they had severe injuries. Like, I think a beam of ceiling fell down on their uh, toes. So yeah, so it was, they had to be rushed to the hospital, and the scene in the hospital was like really, it was disastrous. So it was, the hospitals were really crowded, and like um continuous aftershocks were happening during that time. So it's like, should the nurse and the doctors treat the patients or run for their lives, or like, it was a very chaotic situation that was happening there. So for like days or months, we didn't stay in our own house. We had to like stay in tents, or if people had like cars or something, a vehicle, they would stay inside that. Mm. We only went inside our house when we needed something important, or we need to cook or eat something. Um, we didn't like, we use our proper meal. We didn't used to eat that. We just used to eat whatever cooks fast enough, so that yeah, it doesn't take much time. And then yeah, it was also fun in some way. Like, we were not using our phones that much. I mean, yeah, I was completely off from my phone. And then it was the time for people to gather together and like unite, like neighbors and everyone. Like, it was, I mean, it was not good, but we had to like survive in some way. We had to pass our time. So what we did was, s- s- we used to gather together, cook together, eat together. We also used to play some games to pass our time, like that. So it was like a social event. Um, I used to play many card games with my friends. I remember, and yeah, after that earthquake, I became like me and my best friend were like card game champions. So I think we also made the most out of what we were given. Now let's talk about Nepal's geology. So for decades, geophysicists and other experts uh, have warned that Nepal is vulnerable to a devastating earthquake, especially given its geology, urbanization, and architectural features. So, yeah, I think Nepal is very prone to earthquakes. I I didn't personally experience any before like 2015, but my parents, grandparents used to say that they experienced many earthquakes. So after like 2015, uh, I don't. It's like uncountable earthquakes that we've experienced after since then. So immediately following the main shock, a series of aftershocks occurred every 15 to 30 minutes. Yeah, it was true. Like, not even like 15 to 20 minutes. Like, it was continuous, so continuous. Like, we were just tired of it. Now the Nepalese are very used to like small minor earthquakes. So over 38 aftershocks were recorded the day after the initial earthquake, one of which measured 6.8 magnitude. So um, you need to know this, that after a major earthquake, there's always aftershocks that follow. So I personally didn't know this, but after that experience, I got to know it. So, within a year after the main earthquake, there had been 459 aftershocks with different epicenters and magnitude equal or above 4, 51 aftershocks equal or above 5, 5 aftershocks above 6 magnitude, and more than 20,000 aftershocks less than 4 magnitude. We can say that 10 years have passed and its aftershocks are still felt to this day in Nepal. It's true. Nepal has been facing noticeable earthquakes frequently since the main earthquake happened, and the people there have gotten used to it. Yeah, like I just said. So, like 20, uh, 20,000 aftershocks of less than 4 magnitude is like crazy. So, Nepal lies at the southern end of the diffuse coordinate boundary, where the Indian plate underthrusts the Eurasian plate, occupying nearly one third of the 2,400-kilometer long Himalayan arc. So, those of you who don't know, so Nepal lies in between like China and India. So, from north to south, east to west, and nearly parallel to subparallel, the Nepal Himalayas are subdivided into 5 tectonic zones: the Tarai Plain, Sub Himalaya, Lesser Himalaya, Higher Himalaya, and Inner Himalaya. In each of these zones, distinctive morphological, geological, and tectonic characteristics can be observed. The rate of convergence between the plates in central Nepal is approximately 45 millimeters per year. Based on the earthquake's location, magnitude, and focal mechanism, it appears to have been caused by a slip along the main frontal thrust. The risk of a large earthquake was well known beforehand. Nepal is located within a prominent earthquake belt called the Alpide Earthquake Belt, which accounts for about 17% of the world's largest earthquakes. The Indian plate and the Eurasian plate collided some 60 million years ago to form present Nepal. Over the course of history, earthquakes have occurred in this region as enough ev- energy accumulates around the region. There has been at least one major earthquake every century since 1255 in Nepal. So, yeah, I told that, as I previously mentioned, um, so another huge earthquake that happened before the 2015 one was in 1934. So we can see how it has been occurring every century. Now let's talk about the geologic research that stemmed from the event. So scientists' noise of the main Himalayan thrust geological fault is largely based on earthquake records from before modern seismometers were available. So during 1934, I don't think so. Like seismometers were available or like the up to date ones. So the 2015 Gorkha earthquake gave a much needed update to the scientists. Geologic effects of the earthquake include landslides, collapses of terraces, debris flows, rock falls, and ground fissures. Detailed studies at multiple sites provided insights into how these effects vary with factors like intensity, slope steepness, and lithology informing future hazard assessments. Researchers are searching for an explanation for why there was less shaking of damage than they expected for an earthquake of 7.8 inside the Kathmandu Valley. The Kathmandu Valley is a bowl formed by ancient lake bed sediments as thick as 500 meters. So, yeah, we have also heard that Kathmandu Valley used to be a lake before. So, soft sedimentary valleys often increase shaking frequency, damaging most buildings, but this time the opposite may have occurred. Researchers describe this as a nonlinear effect. That is, sediments in the valley lost their cohesiveness during the shaking and did not transmit energy as effectively as they would with normal cohesiveness. Okay, a state of emergency was declared by the Nepalese government immediately following the earthquake, and soon nearly the entire Nepalese army because became involved in rescue and recovery operations. So not only the army, like many people volunteered. I mean, it was time for people to, like, people really helped each other. Like, there is a lot of unity in Nepalese people uh, that I know of. The Nepalese government also appealed for assistance from the international community. The United Nations quickly set up the Nepal Earthquake 2015/appeal fund to raise an estimated of the 415 million for earthquake relief efforts in Nepal. In the 2 weeks following the earthquake, more than the 330 million had been raised, either directly or through pledges. Many countries sent aid and rescue teams to assist. In the first few days following the earthquake, relief services were provided to those in need, but a number of villages were remote from existing transportation networks. Kathmandu's international airport was congested, and heavy trucks, helicopters, and other vehicles capable of transporting supplies were lacking. Yeah. So obviously there were many aids that came up, but like I used to live in a city area like Kathmandu Valley, and still the aid took like many days to come to us. So I'm wondering how long it took for it to reach the village areas where there's lack of transportation and everything. So better construction can make a difference. So obviously in Nepal there are many old buildings. So most of the deaths and injuries in Nepal were caused by poor construction. Most homes are made out of stone, brick, or concrete that are either unreinforced or poorly reinforced. And although there are building codes, they are not enforced or followed. Yeah, I don't agree that Nepal has a building code because nobody follows them. As you can see in the fourth picture, like how tall the building is and how wide is that? It's like really narrow. I mean, it's not only uh, dangerous for their own house, but also people living nearby it. So, the way the house is constructed can make a lot of difference in a structure that is still standing and one that has completely collapsed. So, here are s- s- tips on how to survive an earthquake. So, it's I know earthquake is a sudden thing, but you always need to prepare beforehand. Like not only earthquake, but any natural disaster or any disaster that's to come. So you need to secure your home and workplace. So you need to anchor heavy furnitures to walls, store heavy items on lower shelves to prevent them from falling. Use latches on cabinets to prevent them from opening during shaking. Okay, so you need to prepare an emergency kit. You need to pack food, water, first aid, flashlight, batteries, and important documents. So this applies to not only earthquake or any natural disaster. You always have to like prepare an emergency kit. So you obviously you should practice earthquake drills. So when an earthquake happens, you need to cover your head and neck first. You need to stay away from windows, glass, tall buildings, or buildings generally, trees, power lines, and street lights. You need to stay away from anything that you feel like can fall on you. So you need to pull over in a clear or open space. Do not wait for official warnings, and you need to shut off electricity and turn off the gas. It's really important. You need to check for injuries and help others. Be prepared for smaller quakes that follow the main earthquake. If your home is damaged, smells like gas, or has cracks, move to a safe area. Follow instructions from authorities regarding safety and evacuation. Phone lines get overwhelmed, only call for urgent help. So, as I said, I was completely off from my phone. You need to save up your battery for emergency situations. And do not enter collapsed or cracked buildings. Yeah. especially like cracked buildings. Like you cannot enter like collapsed buildings, but like cracked buildings, they are very dangerous. Okay, so here are the works I cited from, and here are some pictures that was taken from your phone. Yeah, and that should be it. Thank you guys.